1. Blog Talk Radio.
Don't touch me. I'll beat your brains out.
You believe in miracles?
I mean, you can take a knee and try a 56-yard field goal. This is not Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl.
Let's get ready to rumble.
I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me. My style is impetuous. My defense is impregnable. And I'm just ferocious. I want your heart. I want to eat his children.
Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. But that's how it goes.
California the big game over Stanford.
I think that the NFL knows what Randy Moss has done with marijuana, and I think the NFL knows what Randy Moss does with marijuana.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Good morning. And thank you for joining me.
Top of the morning. Those of you already on Facebook Live, the millions obviously listening around the world on Blog Talk Radio, live from Hollywood, California. This is Tough Love. I'm Alistair. Hope you guys are having a great Thanksgiving weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours. Hopefully you had a great day. Myself, for the first time in a long time, unfortunately, I didn't have a turkey dinner. I did help out and volunteer on Thursday morning, feeding the homeless down at MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. I gotta be honest, I didn't really do too much. It's a thought that counts, though. There was so many volunteers there. I just hung out with a bunch of kids and like finger painted and chilled out. And then I came back and hung out with some neighbors and watched football and had tri-tip and some drinks. So it was fun. I think you could argue that this might be, just as a whole, one of the best sports weekends just in general. When it comes down to it, not only football, but, basketball, and there's good boxing, going on and so forth. So, and as usual, obviously a lot to get to. Tiger and Phil was Friday. Those of you who saw that, they didn't play that well, let's say that. I won't say they played like shit. There was a couple shots here and there, but luckily they played equally. And it went to, extra holes, which was dope. It was super, super awesome. I thought so. You might not think so. Oh, well. Get to that in a bit. Also, obviously, rivalry weekend in college football. So you had Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Minnesota, Wisconsin. The longest running rivalry in college FBS sports. I think it was 128 or something like that years they've been playing. Get to that. Obviously, week 12 in the NFL, big games. Dallas, New Orleans, Chicago already took care of business on Thanksgiving. And Minnesota Vikings obviously is probably the biggest, or Minnesota Vikings. Minnesota Green Bay is obviously the biggest game today. Chad Polo, love you guys. And so obviously I'll chat about that. Where are all my notes? May as well get to it. Just a couple quick things before I do in fact get to the Vikings and Packers, because I'll deep dive into that. But first things first, I had some back and forth with my buddies this morning about the Timberwolves. My buddy Bob sent me a Snapchat, or not a Snapchat, a screenshot of the Timberwolves salary. And more than anything, just to show what Andrew Wiggins is making. Last night, Timberwolves beat the Bulls, pretty handily by like 15 points. Funny, though, because Andrew Wiggins went 0 of 12 shooting. And Covington didn't do that much better. I want to say, what was he? 1 of 18. Combined, they were 1 of 30. 0 of 14 from three-pointers, and the Timberwolves still won by 15. That's how shitty Chicago Bulls basketball team is. Towns had an incredible game. Saric had a great game too. The only reason I even bring this up is because Andrew Wiggins makes over $300,000 a game. And my buddy Bob sent me his stat line for the year, which I will share with you real quick. It is 15.5 points a game, 3.8 rebounds, and 2.3 assists. I'm telling you right now, it is not the numbers of a max player, and it's just unfortunate. I've said this numerous times, but if your owner has to sit you down and ask if you have the requisite love for the game and want and fire to give you a max contract, you probably shouldn't offer that dude a max contract. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're questioning his passion, you might not want to pay the dude. And that's what the Timberwolves are stuck with right now. He could be awesome, but he's not. And he never will be because he doesn't give a shit enough. He is making $27 million this year to just be average. And he can get by with being average because he is so otherworldly talented that he can get by with being, whatever. I mean, it's unfortunate because he could be great. He's okay with being good. He could be great. And it's sad. But wanted to just share that because that's unfortunate. A lot of money to people that, Jared Bayless, the guy who the Timberwolves got in the trade of Jimmy Butler, is making $8 million this year. $8 million. Jared Bayless, if you saw him at Ralph's Supermarket, you wouldn't know who the hell this guy is. Yet that guy is making $8 million. It's stupid money. It's stupid money. So touch on that. I mentioned the Gophers. Obviously nobody gives a shit, but I'm going to mention it because it's the first time in 14 years that the Minnesota Gophers beat Wisconsin. It has been since 2004 since the Gophers beat Wisconsin, and that was at home. We won in Madison yesterday, and not just on a last-second field goal. We whooped their ass 37-15, which is hilarious. Now, keep in mind, Wisconsin obviously isn't that great this year. But for a Gophers team that over half of its roster is freshman and sophomore, it's pretty impressive. It's a big win for the program. I know nobody cares, but I, for whatever reason, have been a Gophers fan for a long time. I just say, I want to say it real quick. I know a lot of people, like to shit on their coach, PJ Fleck, row the boat guy and all that. People want to hate on him because he is, a very salesman-y personality. He's just like, it's like he's selling you a car. And I get it. And people don't like that and whatnot. And he's all about positivity, heaven forbid, right? I know. And so forth, and people don't like that because we live in a sad society, apparently. But I want to like PJ Fleck. If you see what he did at Western Michigan, he is trending the same way in Minnesota. First year, terrible. Second year, and then next thing you know, third and fourth year, he starts putting things together. I can tell by watching the team that there is so much more athleticism on it than years past. And it's something to be somewhat excited for if you're a Gopher fan. I'm not, like delusions of grandeur guy. I know they're not going to be like winning national championships, but it would be nice to just get back to respectability. I don't think that's too much to ask. So hopefully that happens. It would be nice. I want the Gophers to do well. Ohio State, Michigan, obviously outside of Auburn, Alabama, and maybe even more than Auburn, Alabama. Michigan, Ohio State is a huge game with huge national championship implication yesterday. And Michigan got rolled. They've lost, I want to say, 4 or 5 straight. Jim Harbaugh has yet to beat Ohio State. And Ohio State scored 62 points on Michigan yesterday. And Michigan came in with the #1 defense in the country. So it's not as though Ohio State was beating, like Abilene Christian. They beat Michigan, granted in Ohio State, but laid 62 points on Michigan. And to me, I like the fact that Michigan lost only because that means they're completely out of the national championship or college football playoff. And I said last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, I like Georgia a lot more than I like Michigan. And, for that fact, Oklahoma, over Michigan too. And so now they are. And, obviously on Tuesday when the new college football playoff standings come out, I'm sure it will be, Mark, what's up? I'm sure it will be Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, who all took care of biz, and then probably Georgia, being that they were 5, and then Oklahoma. So there's still, next weekend obviously is conference championships, and so you're going to have Alabama and Georgia, and if Alabama wins that game, Georgia obviously is out as a 2-loss team. If Alabama loses, then who knows? I don't know. I can't remember who Clemson is playing in the ACC. But there's still a lot to be had next Saturday with all the conference championships. I want to say there's a couple on Friday, but that was a shock yesterday. It really was a shock watching them. On Friday, I think it was Friday, that Oklahoma West Virginia game, 59-56. I liken it. I wanted to make a comparison to the Rams and Chiefs, what we saw on Monday night. The 54-51 Rams win. And granted, there was a couple defensive touchdowns by Oklahoma in that game. But the biggest difference going into that game, comparatively to the Rams and the Chiefs, is Oklahoma and West Virginia's defense are non-existent. And that is the type of game that I don't enjoy watching. Number one, if you score 56 points, you should probably win the game. You would think you would win the game if you score 56. That's just common sense. You expected no defense in that game, comparatively to the Rams and Chiefs. The Rams have great defensive personnel. Chiefs were playing much better on defense. There was 3 defensive touchdowns. There was 2 touchdowns off of turnovers in that game, which helped get to 54-51. Oklahoma, West Virginia, you knew it was going to hit the over. You knew it was going to, come close to 100 total points. They had over 1,300 total yards. Larry, I love you, babe. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. I'm not shirtless. I'm sorry. And so you knew that's the game that I'm hoping the NFL isn't trending towards. You know what I'm saying? Buck, what up, bud? And I pray that's not where we're going with the NFL. And, Lamar Jackson is going to do really, really well today against Oakland's horrible defense. Oakland has to go from West Coast to the East Coast. It's not going to be good. Everybody's going to, Lamar. It's going to get out of hand for a week. And hopefully Baltimore's got to play a good defense here pretty soon and put the talk to rest about Lamar. I'll be honest. I don't care if he has a good rest of the year. The NFL will catch up. I've said this for years. The difference, between pro sports and amateur and below, like Pee-wee up through college, football, basketball, whatever. Once you get to the pros, everybody's equal when it comes to size, speed, so forth. You might have an outlier here or there. For the most part, everybody's equal. That's why the best always are best, because of their mind. It's a mental game. College, if you have the best athletes, you win. Look at Alabama, Clemson. It's common sense. So therefore, all right, Phil is still number 2, Buck. Still number 2. Thanks for stopping by. And so therefore, a game that we saw, it is what it is. I lost track. Anyway, as far as, Tiger and Phil, being that Buck just, crashed the Facebook room, I will touch on that. Here's the thing. he's giving me shit yesterday, my buddy, about Phil being better than Tiger because he won on Friday. And don't get me wrong, he did win, but that is like saying, and the example that I gave, is any given Sunday or March Madness. I mean, there are teams that, get lucky. But the Vikings lost at home, got shithoused at home by Buffalo. That doesn't mean Buffalo's a better team. They happen to be on that Sunday. Just like on Friday, Phil won and was better than Tiger for 22 holes, and that's all there is. And, it's not like Phil is better, although they're very close, but you look at the long-term stats, and Tiger obviously is better. And yes, I am a Tiger apologist. I love Tiger, just like I love Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. I will apologize for those guys all day because they're the greatest. They're the greatest. I don't care, And so, therefore, Phil's not better. He was on Friday, and it was fun to watch. I mentioned it to start the show. To me, it was a lot of fun to watch. It was just, you don't see that often. You know what I'm saying? And granted, they didn't play that well. They didn't play that well. But luckily, they played equally average. And so therefore, at the end of 18, they were all square and they both had chances to win. Tiger had a great chip in on 17 that was very Tiger-esque. And it was just, I can't explain it. It was just fun to watch. I will say they made a mistake making it pay-per-view. I don't necessarily think, even though it's Tiger Woods and Phil, I don't think it garnered the attention. And as funny and ironic as it is, Turner and I can't remember the pay-per-view, it didn't work anyway. So everybody got to see it for free, including myself, on my iPad that I'm looking into right now. And it was great. But I do believe if they're going to make this a yearly thing, like I hear they're going to, which would be cool, I would highly suggest putting it, I don't care if it's at the same time, but you can put it in on regular TV. Just put it on ABC, NBC, whatever, cable. I give a shit. Don't make it pay-per-view. I don't think it would have done the numbers they thought it was going to do. I truly don't believe that. And so it was fun to watch, but it should have been free, should have been on regular TV. But it just the going back and forth. What was funny to watch is the front nine versus the back nine couldn't have been more different. The front nine, they're shooting the shit, walking together, joking, making side bets during the match, which was awesome. Like, just the banter back and forth was great. And then all of a sudden, at the turn, it got serious. And they stopped betting. They stopped having too much talk between them, and things got real. And that was a lot of fun to watch. Just two of the best ever, and really getting into it. It didn't necessarily bolster their play, but it definitely got better. So it was fun, and I hope they do this again next year. It would be great, and just make it free. So obviously, big day for the Vikings after that game last Sunday, which wasn't a good one. Hopefully, against the Bears Sunday night, hopefully they can do a reverse and take care of business tonight against the Packers. Packers are down, excuse me, so many people, it's insane. I don't necessarily know exactly what the count is, but defensively, they're down. And, if the Packers lose, they're out. And, that's just being real. There's very little chance that the Packers, with a loss today, would come back. They would be 4-6-1. Even if they were to win out after today, they'd only be 9-6-1. And that's not a guarantee that they're getting in. Although the NFC right now is so jumbled outside of the Rams and the Saints, Everybody else is pretty close. Obviously, the Bears, are sitting at that 3. And if the playoffs started today, the Vikings would have to go to Chicago. A replay of last Sunday night. Hopefully not exactly like that, but that's what they'd have to do. I would see. I can't imagine the Packers at 9-6-1. Again, they'd have to win out if they lost today. And we'll see. Vikings, if they lose today, same thing, man. 5-5-1. And if they won out, obviously they'd be 10-5-1 if they lost today. But you've got a game next week at New England, and then you're at Seattle. And that New England game, you're going to lose that game. I can't see the Vikings going and beating the Patriots. Unless, I don't know. I can't see that happening. Seattle, that's a tough place to play. You think you should win that game, but, they're 5-4-1. They're not beating down anybody's door right now. And so to sit there and assume that a barely above 500 team is going to go into Seattle, a team that has serious playoff, wishes, whatever, left, that's a lot to ask. I don't know. Vikings have to take care of business today, bottom line. It's not, there's not anything aside, from that. They obviously each have a tie because week 3, I think is week 3, or week 2 actually, Vikings went to Green Bay and tied. Big time comeback by Kirk Cousins and so forth. But there's just things from that Chicago game. There's things from this whole season, obviously, that have just got me scratching my head. The lack of run, and again, I just talked about the Virginia or West Virginia and Oklahoma game. The lack of run, even in the Rams and Chiefs, how they got away from running the ball. Todd Gurley only ran the ball 14 times. Kareem Hunt, I want to say, only ran it, 8 or something like that. And then the Vikings on Sunday night in Chicago ran it 14 times total for 22 yards. Dino, Marty, what's up? Danielle? Think about that. It's just 14 times. And, I keep hearing, talking heads on K-Fan back home or, nationally talking about, obviously you weren't going to be running the football. And so, you may as well just go the pass. And it's like, that's not all true. The run game isn't always going to just be 5 yards, 5 yards, 5 yards. You might have a Barry Sanders scenario where it's 1, 3, 2, 4, 70. That stuff happens. And so to sit there and think, we can't run it, may as well just pass every single time. You're playing into the defense. You are just giving it up, and it makes it too easy, especially against somebody like Chicago. You're going to play right into their hands. Khalil Mack's like, sweet, they're not going to run. I get to pass, or I get to rush every play. Great. Think of it. It's just the Vikings have ran it on 32% of the plays this year. Last year, 47%. You cannot be that obvious. They are 29th in running the football out of 32 teams. You can't be effective, an effective running team, and keep defenses honest if you're not going to run the ball. You have to be able to run the football. And I heard somebody the other day talk about, the worst pass attempt is 10 yards, and one of the best running attempts is 5. And so that is their basis. That's their argument, is a pass is going to go garner 10 and a run's going to garner 5. That's fine. But if a defense knows you're going to pass every time, then all they got to do is rush 4 and come with a blitz here and there and just drop people back and cover. you have to be able to have a semblance of the run and effective. And the thing that bothers me is you look at the Saints. Dino, what up? Who dat? Bobby? Marty? You look at the Saints. Drew Brees has had 2 for sure, maybe more than that, games this year where he has thrown for less than 200 yards. And they've won those games. Why? Because they got Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram, and they run the ball. And they do it effectively. And you've got Drew Brees, a Hall of Fame quarterback who can make every throw, yet you choose to run the football because it keeps a defense honest. And then when it's time to throw, you've got a Hall of Fame quarterback in Drew Brees throwing it around. And I'm not saying Kirk Cousins is Drew Brees. Kirk Cousins couldn't be more like Matt Ryan. But serviceable nonetheless. And if you run the ball effectively, you let Chad, what's up, bud? You let Kirk Cousins get more of a chance to pick a defense apart and not have to throw with 8 people back covering the pass, and getting defensive ends and a D line rushing the passer every time at reckless abandon because they have no threat of a run. And the thing about it is, it's not like you don't have good running backs. Latavius Murray, and I'll be the first to admit I was wrong when I said you could ship him out. Latavius Murray's a good back. He's a good back. Dalvin Cook is a good dynamic back. You have the opportunity to run the football and do it effectively and good, and well. And with our offensive line not being the best in pass protection and wanting to run the ball, why aren't you doing that? I think Mike Zimmer indirectly has taken pot shots at DeFilippo, the offensive coordinator, in his press conferences, talking about the offense needs to, not be so voluminous and kind of get back to, more running, so forth, little side jabs. But I'm hoping that he's taking DeFilippo aside and saying, Bud, 32% compared to 47 last year. Last year, Vikings were 13-3, ran the ball well, and now I get it. You got a shiny new toy in Kirk Cousins. Diggs and Thielen are so good. You want to throw the ball, but you got Murray and Cook. Murray and Cook aren't Kamara and Ingram, but damn it, they're close if you just let them. If you just let them run the ball and don't go away from it. I said it on Tuesday night in the recap show, but not one time last week did the Vikings run directly at Khalil Mack. Not one time. And again, I'm not talking sweeps. I'm talking about, Gene, what up? I'm talking about running at him. If you watch that game, there's 4 D linemen for Chicago. And Khalil Mack is just standing up. He's just rushing the passer because you're not running.
90 seconds.
How much time? 10? Oh, 90. Because you're not running at him. And it's frustrating. Mo, what up? And it's so frustrating because the reason you weren't effective running the ball at him is because you were playing into their run defense. You were playing sweep and they're fast and you have to run at these people. And it's killing me. Bobby, I love you, kid. It's just so frustrating. Football isn't that difficult. Honestly, it's not that hard to figure out. It's one in the trenches, and the offensive line got worked by Chicago's defensive line 100% because you didn't just run it at them. You kept trying to be cute, and then when you were like, oh, it's not working, you just ended up throwing it. And that obviously didn't work either. I mean, you made a valiant comeback, but damn it. You just look south to New Orleans. You have the same weapons that they do. Maybe not a Hall of Fame quarterback, but a decent one. Just run the goddamn ball. It's not that difficult. And it makes me so mad. Anyway, I think I'm running down here and getting
10 seconds.
10 seconds. Blog Talk, have a great day. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. Love you guys. I'm out. Facebook Live, I love you guys. Nice turnout. Enjoy your day. Go Vikings. Run the goddamn ball. Drive fast. Take chances. Tough love's out. Bye, guys.